This is Court Storming with your host, Perry Sook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Court Storming. Well, if we were happy last week, well, then we're ecstatic this week. St. John's goes on the road, gets its first Quad 1A win of the season, in addition to not falling for the trap game at Marquette. In addition to that, it's a 4-game win streak. The Johhnies are now 6-1 in sole possession of second place in the Big East. And for the first time in program history, yes, that's right, program history, the Johhnies have road wins at Creighton, Butler, and Nova, all in the same season. What do you think about that? Well, I think it's pretty great, and I bet our guest tonight does as well. Tonight, joining me, a very special guest. We have Eye on the Storm's podcast, David Berov. David, what a great week we had here. We both had the exact same idea last week. We both shouted out, what a difference a week makes. Well, now what a difference another week makes. It is all the things going in the right direction. Let's start with Marquette. I want to spend most of the time on Nova because that's the game that I really think could be a signal of what this team is to come. But let's start with Marquette. You know, you come out fine. You know, it wasn't run away, and then, absolutely second half, blow them away. What about that game did you like from this version of the Johhnies?
Well, what you really liked was that they kept their foot on the pedal in the second half. They continued the trend of the previous week. You just said, hey, the week before was great. Well, that was 2 road wins. Then they came home and everybody's like, trap game. Are they looking ahead to, that game against Villanova? And sure enough, they come out first half. It's a little sloppy, a lot of guys picking up fouls. Rick Pitino is tinkering with the lineup, which he didn't do in the 2 road games. He's got a few guys who just haven't played much, playing extended minutes. And so, you're like, what's going on? And in the second half, it was just complete and utter domination. Johhnies get a 24-point win because they went absolutely nuclear in that second half. And what you really love, listen, Hosea Sellers, when he goes, this team goes. He had 9 points in the second half. He was hitting threes after threes after threes. Zuby Ejiofor gets you 15 points in that second half. Bryce Hopkins gets 10 points, and clearly he continued that against Villanova as well. So you just saw a dominating performance. You didn't allow yourself to play down to your opponent, and that's crazy to say about Marquette, but that's just kind of the way that the year is shaping up for them.
First off, just from a scoring perspective, that is the largest victory in program history over Marquette points-wise. That is the first time that the Johhnies have scored 90 in back-to-back games in program, since the 80s, and just a ridiculous scoring thing. And what I also like about it, you've talked about it on your show, I've talked about it here on Court Storming. How important is Dillon Mitchell, man? When he is in the starting lineup, I'm surprised he didn't go to it sooner. I know you talked in the offseason about the possibility of having that 3 big lineup and thought maybe that wasn't the way to go. But, man, has it worked. Now 4 games in a row, 4 wins, and Dillon Mitchell, I think, is the motor that makes it run. Even when he is not clogging up the stat sheet, he is a guy that just makes the right play at the right time and frees up the other guys. I think Ian Jackson's doing a great job adjusting from the 2 to the 1. I think Sellers is doing fine when he has to be the ball handler, but having him as an option as a point forward just makes this 5-out offense work in a way that, is putting up 96 points, is putting up 92 points, putting up 80-something points. It has been a great transition to see. And then, of course, Sellers. When he's firing on all cylinders like he was, you can't do anything about that, and you can't stop that. And look, it was a trap game, and the Johhnies didn't get trapped. And this team, Rick Pitino used the word frailty at one point this season, which I thought was a little harsh. But we've all been worried about the grit and the backbone and the comeback of this team, and to not let that happen in a game where you very easily could have let it happen between 2 massive road games. I was impressed. Anything else stand out to you about the Marquette game?
Well, I'm happy you brought up Dillon Mitchell. Dillon Mitchell is the most quintessential glue guy that you could have in college basketball. And what he allows St. John's to do, and we've seen it in 4 straight games now, is allows everybody else to just kind of take the pressure off of them. Zuby Ejiofor doesn't have to play 39 minutes and have to do it all himself. He has become a guy that other teams have to keep their eyes on, literally, because he's playing that point forward position and he's bringing the ball up. And when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's so athletic that he can move into space. He can replace on offense, and on defense, he can switch 1 through 5. And so that, with Zuby Ejiofor's defense, with Bryce Hopkins' defense as well, the guards who are playing better as well, it has changed the dynamic. Dillon Mitchell has changed the dynamic for St. John's, and I believe he has altered the trajectory of the season after that Providence loss. That's where everything has obviously changed. There was talks that there was a meeting after that game. Lefteris Leotopoulos, after the Creighton game, said, hey, we got together. We all had some serious conversations, and we said, we're not losing again. Now, that's going to be an awesome point to look back on in April if this team goes as far as we projected them to go in the offseason. And if this is that moment where we all look back on and we say, okay, that stumble against Providence, well, it really sucked in the moment. But was that the takeoff point? That really could be what we're looking at here. And so far, 4 games from that moment, it's hard to argue.
Exactly. I called it on last week's episode, the start of the championship DVD, hopefully, is that, terrible upset to Providence at MSG. But I wish it was that simple, Dave, is that, Lefty says we're not going to lose anymore, and you just keep wearing black, and that's the way to go. I joined you in your all black solidarity. I love that you guys are doing that on the pod, and as I always say, it's only weird if it doesn't work.
That's right.
All right, last thoughts on Marquette. I do want to bring up the point guards, as you say, because the internet is a harsh place, and there's been a lot of hate on Dylan Darling. And, I was there at DePaul when he kind of made it happen for this team. I think that was kind of his coming out party and his Big East debut. And then Coach even said it after this game that, Dylan turned the game around with his incredible hustle. So I just want people to remember that. Yes, he might not be stuffing the stat sheet, but he's doing things sometimes when he needs. And that'll be a theme on this show. I have 2 players I'm defending on this show, and I bet you can guess the next one. But before we get on to that, as we mentioned, Dillon Mitchell is the motor that makes this engine go. And Rick Pitino and Dillon had some thoughts on just what they were bringing after the Marquette game.
Dillon gave us a big lift because it's another guard in the game for us as a point forward, and that's a big thing for us right now.
My main goal for this team is just to do whatever it takes to win, whatever it takes to help this team go out there and compete at the highest level every night. Being able to handle the ball, being able to just move, set screens, try to get guys open, rebounding, and then most importantly, guarding, switching on guards, switching on bigs, whatever it is. But I think the most important thing for me is just trying to do whatever it takes to help this team win at a high level.
And that is what he is doing. He is helping this team win at a high level. And it just continued. It just continued this weekend against Villanova. 4th game in a row with the same starting lineup. It might be the first time all season it's been 4 games in a row with the same starting lineup. And what does that do? Well, that leads to a Johhnie win against Villanova, 86-79 in Philadelphia. As we mentioned, the first Quad 1A victory, against a top 30 team on the road in net. And I was impressed. I've been to a couple of the away games, and I was talking to some of the other beat reporters who have been. That was the most hostile environment that I think they have played in, and I got the guys right behind me because I'm sitting on the court shooting the game. And they're yelling, they're screaming, they're not saying very nice things down there in Philadelphia, Dave, I got to tell you. And plus, there were a couple times in that game that runs were made. You had the 13-2 run. You had the 7-0 run, 12-3 run and 7-0 run in the hostile environment, and the Johhnies didn't cave. And that's coming off only a 1-point lead at that. Watching that as a podcaster, watching that as a fan, I mean, it felt like the curse was reversed. Like I felt like this team found an identity, found something that they could really work with. When you're watching that Nova game, where are you like, this is it? This is St. John's basketball?
Well, it's a bigger point because the last 4 games have been what you're talking about, not just Villanova. It's been the building of an identity because against Butler, it was a full, really, really strong second half. Against Creighton, it was a really strong first half. Against Marquette, it was a really strong second half. And against Villanova, I said that after, especially at halftime when it was a 1-point game, well, St. John's is going to have to play this game kind of like last season. And can St. John's muck it up? Can St. John's play and grit and fight their way through it? Now, they quickly responded by scoring 12 of their 13 first baskets in the second half, and Ian Jackson and Ozai Sellers and Bryce Hopkins were huge in those first 6 minutes of the second half that really catapulted St. John's. But to answer your question, what this game showed is that St. John's didn't allow a team, especially on the road, that was hitting big shots, that was hitting threes, and got their crowd back into it. St. John's always had an answer. St. John's had that counterpunch. They got as close to as five. But there was a few times where Josan Sanin hit 2 monster threes, and he's somebody that's been struggling so far, especially in the last 4 or 5 games. He hits 2 monster shots. And, of course, everything starts with Bryce Hopkins and Ian Jackson having the 2 best games as Red Storm players this season in that game. On the road, like you said, in a hostile environment, which is not something we usually say about Villanova crowds. And I think you're going to change your tune once UConn and that Providence road game comes around.
Oh, sure.
But I think that...
So far. Most hostile so far.
Yes, for sure. Because when I see guys in banana suits in Villanova, I don't exactly think hostility, but I digress. Listen, Ian Jackson played like the top transfer portal addition on the planet against Villanova. That's what you want to see. He changes how St. John's operates. He changes how far they can go this season when he plays like that. Aggressive Ian Jackson changes everything. Bryce Hopkins played his best game of the season as well. And those two together, your 2 biggest transfer portal additions on the road, playing like that, is what you brought them to Queens for, and that changes everything for St. John's.
Yeah, I want to talk a lot more about Ian and Hopkins because I think they've stepped into a role. A couple weeks ago after the Providence game, I was going, who's going to be the number 2? Zuby can't do it all by himself. Who's going to step up? Who's going to have that alpha mentality? Rick said he wanted Hopkins to have that, Mamba mentality. Well, guess what? He's been a sensational second half player. He has stepped into that role. But I wanted to hit on something you said. The loudness in that arena when they went on the road that was instantly quieted by not only the first, but the second Sanin 3. Those were massive points in this game. Circle them on the play sheet. And so that brings me to my second player I would like to defend. Sanin is struggling. I think we can all say that. He has not been shooting at the clip that he normally does. But Rick has said he's not worried about it. Rick has even called him the most talented athlete on the court. So to have someone who's going to let it rip, who's going to be no fear, who's not going to get in their head, when Nova is slowly crawling back, and to be able to hit those, it was only 2 of them. But guess what? They were 2 pivotal threes at moments that stopped runs, that kept it at 5, that pushed it back to 8. And for me, those were big moments. And so I wanted to get on here and give Joe San some love because he was exceptional. But it does go back. It goes back to the bigs. It goes back to Ian Jackson stepping up. Hopkins, his third 20-point game of the year, 36 minutes in this one, his season high, 8 for 10 with 6 boards and 22 points, as we mentioned, pretty exceptional. But Ian Jackson, really the story here, and I want to talk about him a lot more. But first, I was able to talk to Rick, the man himself, after the game last night, and we are going to take a quick listen to that. Coach, 4-game win streak. Just what has gone into having this team play like they are right now?
Well, I think it's tough playing on the road anywhere. And we have been playing extremely well on the road. But when you score 90, 92, and 86, the tempo really helps us at the defensive end as well.
To me, at least, this seemed like the most hostile environment. Were you at all surprised how your team came back, especially when Nova made the late run?
No, I told them, I said, look, they're a great shooting team. Just don't play not to lose. Play to win. So many teams on the road play not to lose. They get a little conservative. They don't take the shot. They don't take chances. Play to win. Don't have a fear of losing.
Ian at the 1 and the 3 big lineup again, and phenomenal nights by Ian and Hopkins. Is this kind of the identity that you imagine for this team going forward?
It's really, really tough for a 2-guard, a wing player, to change to a point for the first time in your life. He's done a fabulous job adjusting. Does he make a few mistakes? Yes, but I don't know of any other player could do what he's doing right now. Never played a position and suddenly played in a high pressure situation.
And then last one for you, obviously a big one against Seton Hall. Just what are you expecting in that matchup?
Well, obviously, I said we're scoring 90, 92, and 86. It's not happening against Seton Hall. So we know they're a great team. They're coming off 2 losses. We know they'll be ready, but I have a lot of faith in my basketball team.
Perfect, Coach. Thank you so much. Congrats. Just a happy, smiling coach after that one. Fantastic. Quick correction. There was a whole scandal that we don't have time to get into in this. We got 2 different score sheets after the game at Villanova. One incorrectly had Bryce with 22. He had 20 on the night, but still his third 20-point game of the season. But Ian Jackson, those stats we will get into, and I am happy to dive into those, and we will hit on those, me and Dave, when Court Storming returns.
Welcome back to Court Storming with Perry Sook.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Court Storming. You heard the man in the sky. This is a fun one. I tweeted about it earlier today that it is much more fun doing these shows and prepping for them when you're in the win column. And St. John's did that twice that week. So what more could you ask for? And a massive part of that was Ian Jackson. As Dave said earlier in the show, when he is running like that, it's what you thought you were going to get. It's what you imagined when you watched him play at Cardinal Hayes and the McDonald's All-American game, which I did, in fact, go and cover in Houston because there were 5 New Yorkers on the men's side playing in that game. Absolutely ridiculous. And so with that, let us welcome back in, wearing black for the win, David Berov. So I love this new lineup. I am all about it for so many reasons. And it only gets better if Ian Jackson continues to thrive like he did last night. What is it about, I think a lot of it is not making him make all the decisions. I think a lot of it is letting him be the point guard, but also not forcing him to be the point guard. And when you see a game like last night, how much, does that inspire you to what this team could be, to what we imagined they would be when the number 1 transfer class came in?
Well, when Ian Jackson scores 18 points like that, when he's getting downhill, when he is playing off the bounce, when he is hitting step-back threes like he's James Harden, Ian Jackson, when he plays like that, looks like the best guard getting to the rim in the conference. Villanova had no answer for him. If he wanted to, he could have scored on basically every possession. And the best part about Ian Jackson being aggressive like that is that it opens up the floor for everybody else. Bryce Hopkins had his best game in a St. John's uniform, in part because of how aggressive Ian Jackson was. When you're drawing fouls, when you're going to the rim, you're allowing everybody else to get to their spots. We haven't seen a game where both of them played to their highest capabilities up until last night. And now you start thinking, oh, this is why people rank St. John's top 5 preseason, because look, everybody clicked on the same night. Dillon Mitchell had a double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds. Zuby Ejiofor, who we haven't even talked about, has a kind of quiet night at 17 points because he left so many at the free throw line. And I know he's beating himself up over that. But that's before you chalk up 18 points for Ian and 20 points for Bryce. That's why the ceiling was so high for this Red Storm team. And when Ian Jackson plays like that, you start thinking crazy things heading into March. And frankly, it's really nice to start feeling that way again because of this 4-game winning streak. Because after that Providence game, I was not in a good place. And you want to have patience as a fan base. You want to trust the process. And if there's anybody that deserves the benefit of the doubt, it's always Rick Pitino. We've seen 3 years now worth of this because it's January 18th and this team is really starting to click. And Ian Jackson playing like this, Bryce Hopkins playing like this is a huge reason why.
Oh yeah. It's and it is crazy because Pitino's teams always get better. But the way they set the schedule up, there wasn't any time to get better early, and it made you panic. I on this show I said I'm not jumping ship, but I'm pressing the panic button. Because you're sitting here with almost as many losses as you had all of last season, and we're just starting conference play. Well, then you go on this 4-game win streak with these big lineup with the point forward, and with Ian Jackson emerging, it really does bring to light what this team could be. Again, I mean, averaging 88 points a game over the last 4 games with this lineup, all three bigs and Ian Jackson in double digits last night. Now Rick always says that it's, the lineup is matchup based. Do you see him moving away? I feel like it's like the black sweaters. Why move away if it's working? Why would you move away from the big lineup?
No way. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. No, Rick Pitino has a famous saying where he says, if it ain't broke, break it and build it up again. No. We're not messing around with things right now. Dillon Mitchell, Bryce Hopkins, Subi Ejiofor are here to stay with Ian Jackson and Uzziah Sellers. That's it. You found it. Don't tinker. That's it. They found their roles. They found comfort. And, you don't have 11, 12 guys kind of in and out. That goes a long way to getting guys comfortable, not having guys look over their shoulders and not have to worry about being, pulled out after 1 second. And, credit to Rick, it took a while. Yeah,
sure.
It took a while. You wish you had answers in end of November and December, and you wish you got some of those Las Vegas wins and all that. It is what it is. But you hope that the lessons you learned at the end of November and in December are going to pay dividends in late February and in March.
Exactly. That's what Rick always says is, we're learning from our mistakes. And while that sounds like coach speak, it seems like this team actually does, both mentally and physically. And I love what you said about the rotation because, having a 12-man rotation is not necessarily having a 12-man rotation. It's having 8 guys. And then on any given night, you fill in the 3 that are going to step up. And sometimes, as you said, it's a lefty. Sometimes, Deco was awesome last night. And so it is that depth that lets you do things in March because, if you need all 8 to be on at all times, they're not all going to be. And Zuby, I'm sorry we're not giving you enough love. You're Zuby. You're killing it. You are the preseason Big East Player of the Year for a reason. I could do every show just about you and just about you coming back and beating yourself up over the 5-3 throws before I could. We're lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you in a St. John's uniform. That is me getting to cover you. That is me as a fan getting to cheer for you. We are lucky to have you. But last night the story was Ian Jackson, and I did get a chance to catch up with him after the game last night. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick listen to that. After all the ups and downs of the early season, here you are, 4-game win streak and sole possession of second place of the Big East. Just does it feel like this team is coming together at the right time?
Absolutely. I think what happened in the beginning of the season or the losses that we took doesn't define who we are, and I think that we're proving that in a great manner right now. We just keep doing the same thing.
Personally, a fantastic game for you. Great to start the first half. A little bit of foul trouble the second half. What was working for you tonight?
I think I was getting to the rim. The team played a drop coverage. I think. I appreciate Zuby, man, him being such a threat, so that the big man is indecisive on who to guard. So, just pick and choose him.
Coach talks constantly about the fact that it's so hard for you to, play a position you never played before. But now you've got this 3 big lineup, a little point forward action, along with you playing point guard. Is this working for you? Do you feel comfortable?
Absolutely. I think the comfort comes from my teammates. They know that this is my first year playing the 1, but. They trust me. They trust me, and having trust from them is probably the most important thing for me. So that definitely helps a lot, and I'm just feeding off that.
The Big East never takes breaks. How do you keep this going?
We hungry, man. We hungry. Our vibe is to attack tomorrow like as if it's our last day, and that's to do that every day after that. And we got a big one coming up, so try to get another dub.
Dave, when you look at it now, you've touched on a little bit. But you've got 4-4 in quad 1 wins. Now some of those might turn to quad 2. You got the quad 1A win, which that's top 40 on the road, not top 30. I got a great statistician with me on the show here. This team is 23 in net and 20 in KenPom right now. You started the season with such high hopes that, hey, hopefully a 2 seed, like last, or even a 1 seed. Then it was, oh my God, are we going to be on the bubble? Are we going to make the tournament? And now it's like, hey, we're trending in the right. What do you see as the ceiling for this team right now as far as seeding goes, and just what has this roller coaster been like for the fan, Dave Bevrov?
A roller coaster is probably putting it lightly. I mean, listen, highs and lows are what comes with being a fan, especially after last season where you experienced so many highs up until that godforsaken Arkansas game. But this season, obviously, expectations change the way that you're going to feel, and that's why the disappointment of those early losses were so hard because, you lose by 1 to Iowa State and, that stings. But then you're like, we shouldn't have lost to Auburn, and Kentucky is reeling. And of course they get healthy for your game. And then Jaden Quaintance and Jalen Lowe basically don't play again after that game. So it's just like, man, bad luck for St. John's, as we've seen for the last 25 years. Listen, at the end of the day, those are all nonsense and excuses, and this team is not about that. This team has proven that when we started to call them soft and unable to punch back when they were facing adversity, they told everybody to shut up. The trajectory of this season has certainly flipped over the last 4 games. That's how quickly it can change, and that's why you give the your belief and your faith in a Rick Pitino-led team. And you kind of keep this going because there's a huge matchup on Tuesday against Seton Hall.
Exactly. And it can all go down just as quickly as it went up, but my goodness, does it feel good to be thinking about this team in the up and up. Rick says all the time, this is a good team. This is a good team, but we're not great. We could get there. And last night after the big win, somebody did ask him, well, Rick, has your evaluation changed? And I thought it was pretty interesting what he had to say.
I think the greatest gift in life and the greatest gift to any basketball team is humility. I think when you're humble, you coach better, you play better. And good is the enemy of great in most circumstances. But if I say we're a great team, we're going to get our asses beat the next game. So if you could just stay humble, you work hard every single day. So good is always the enemy of great in business and some other areas. You strive for greatness, not to be good. But just stay balanced. We're a good team. We're only going to get better. If you keep that message to them, they'll stay hungry and humble. And that's what I'm after. Just be humble, be hungry, get after it.
Yeah, humble and hungry, certainly things this team looks like. And you said it. It's Seton Hall on Tuesday, and a team that was recently ranked. I doubt they will be when Monday's rankings come off after a 2-loss week. But the Big East takes no breaks, and it's all gas, no breaks here. Dave, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I could talk St. John's basketball with you for hours, and so I'll just have to have you back. And hopefully we are still wearing black because hopefully St. John's has still not lost a game. Dave, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Absolutely. Perry, you're the best. Thank you so much for bringing me back. And let's keep the good times going. Johhnies really got it rolling 4 games in a row. Make it 5 on Tuesday.
Let's do it. 5 on Tuesday and hopefully 6 next time you see me next week. Because you remember, no matter what happens with the St. John's Red Storm, you can catch it all right here on Court Storming.